Hi, this is Matt Fleck, formerly with the Indiana Department of Education and now with a new organization called Fleck Education Services. We've been working around the state of Indiana this spring and summer in helping schools develop and implement new evaluation tools, rubrics, and other measures for school counselors, school social workers, school nurses, and school psychologists. Collectively, we refer to them as student services personnel. This short 4-minute video gives you an idea of some key components to look for when you're developing or implementing those evaluation tools. So let's get started. As you know, state law requires that Indiana schools evaluate all certified school personnel, including student services professionals, in two key areas. First, in rating the effectiveness of the certified employee, which RISE calls professional practice, and must include both performance indicators and observations, and student learning and growth, measuring both student achievement and student progress. How do you measure these two components with school counselors and other student service specialists? Well, that's where we can help. First, for measuring professional practice, the RISE model uses the teacher effectiveness rubric. If you look at the domains of the teacher effectiveness rubric, especially domains 1, 3, and 4, those can also be used to measure the effectiveness of school counselors and other student services personnel. In fact, the School Social Worker and School Psychologist Associations have drafted effectiveness rubrics that do just that, aligning the language of domains 1, 3, and 4 with that of the teacher rubric. Our office has made modifications to the rubrics provided by the School Counselor and School Nurse Associations to accomplish the same goal, so that essentially domains 1, 3, and 4 are fairly similar for all certified staff. Domain 2 describes more specifically what an observer should see when a school counselor, nurse, social worker, or psychologist interacts with students. What is the student services specialist doing, and how are students responding? Locally, you'll want to determine if Domain 2 should be used to measure the observable content that is being delivered by the student services professional, or like in the teacher effectiveness rubric, if it's to be used to measure the student responses and the actions being performed by the student services personnel. Observing a counselor or other student services personnel interacting with students could take place in a large classroom setting, a small group, or on occasion in individual one-on-one meetings with students. You'll want to be very clear about the setting of the observations, since that will inform what goes in the rubric for Domain 2. Let's now look at the other part of the teacher evaluation law, and that is how student services personnel affect student learning. Unlike classroom teachers, your student services employees, of course, don't give a final exam at the end of the year that measures student learning or growth. However, there are pre- and post-tests and student surveys, student achievement data as well, and what the state calls student choice data that can be used to set specific student learning objectives, or SLOs. Let's look quickly at each of these. Achievement data, such as I-STEP scores, are the gold standard for measuring student learning, but are very hard to use for measuring the effectiveness of someone in student services, other than as part of the school-wide goals. If your school chooses to use achievement measures for the student services evaluation, be sure to choose achievement measures that can be directly impacted by the counselor or social worker or other student services professional. Achievement-related student measures are much better indicators of school counselor, social worker, nurse, and psychologist performance. These measures are sometimes called student choice measures and could include, for example, the number of students deciding to take an AP course, or choosing to enroll in 21st Century Scholars, or choosing not to hit someone on the playground. This data is often related to student achievement, behavior, or attendance because of what the counselor, social worker, nurse, or psychologist does. And the third set of student data are knowledge and skills that students actually learn from their counselor or social worker. Counselors sometimes refer to these as guidance standards, such as learning where to go to apply for scholarships or learning a better way to communicate feelings of anger. Your school can decide locally on a specific set of these quote-unquote guidance standards that you expect students to know, much in the same way a teacher in classroom teaches content standards. Pre- and post-tests or student surveys are often used to assess whether students learn and master these standards, but also can be used to show student growth. The Indiana Department of Education has worked with school counselors, social workers, psychologists, and school nurse associations to develop some great rubrics and guidance documents to help schools as they develop measures for student services professionals. You can find these on the Learning Connection under the community titled IDOE, Developing New Indiana Evaluations. Fleck Education has also created several free evaluation resources which you can find at fleckeducation.com, including some specific examples by grade level for determining the student learning objectives to measure counselor and social worker effectiveness. If you would like to discuss how Fleck Education can help you in designing or implementing these evaluation resources for student services professionals, please contact us at fleckeducation@gmail.com or 317-748-0108. Thanks for watching.